Hi, and welcome to another episode of Forward on Sports X's and O's. I'm Ashley Elam, along with Mike Kennesaw.
Mike Kennesaw. Hello, hello, hello.
And of course, joining us every week, we have a coach from our area.
Yep.
This week, Chris Babin, Lumberton Raiders.
Yeah, coach. Yeah. Very nice to meet you.
And, there's some excitement going on in Lumberton right now because you're off to your best start since 2015, 2-0 after taking care of Houston Fur last week. And, what's working for you so far?
When you're 2-0, you feel like everything's kind of working right now. Kids are working hard, man. They're working hard. It's year 5 since I've became the head coach at Lumberton, and feel like right now, not just with a 2-0 start, but just with what they've learned over the last several years, we're just rolling in practice. And I feel like that's the biggest reason for our good start.
Now, you had an unusual start to the season. Your first game's canceled due to weather up in Jasper. You make that trip up into the Piney Woods. How tough was that, when you have your team amped up, ready to go, season opener, and we're not going to play tonight?
It's tough sitting there. We coaches are scheduled people, and we have a schedule, and we pull in at 5:35, and both me and Coach Barbe knew that the weather wasn't very good, and so we knew we were going to be waiting. When we pulled in, we were on delay. And we kind of set a deadline, a time. And we sat there from 5:30 to 8 o'clock. So we sat in a visitor locker room many yards away from the stadium, just hanging out for hours. And it was tough. But there was a point that we all kind of knew that it probably wasn't going to happen.
Now, looking back, because of course we know Jasper is a dominant stake-ranked team right now. They're number 2 on Dave Campbell's, I believe, last time I checked. Looking at it now, do you think it was probably best that y'all probably didn't play? Since, you're up to a fast 2-0 start.
80, you don't want to avoid anybody. Come on.
Of course you don't, but 80-plus points so far offensively. What's working offensively for you guys right now?
About the Jasper game, I can tell you, worrying about my kids first, it was disappointing for me because my kids and the Jasper kids lost a football game. And I told my kids, the only way you're going to get that football game back is if you make the playoffs, fellas. Mm-hmm. It's supposed to be guaranteed 10 games, and we lost one due to weather. So I was upset for my kids, but not getting that week worried me a little bit going into game 2 because it's a new offense that we're running, same defense that we're running, but getting to test run that new offense, we didn't get that opportunity. But it's been good so far for us, for sure.
Now you went from week 1, game being canceled. You go to week 2, and unfortunately, you didn't get to play 4 quarters there either against Kirbyfield because we've been following it. There was a young man that was injured, had a spinal injury. It looks like he's going to make a recovery. He actually released a note this weekend saying that he thanked everyone for the thoughts and the prayers, and he's on his road to recovery. How scary was that for you to witness that on the field, a game you're coaching?
Kids are going to get hurt and lay there when something's not right. And at that moment, it wasn't scary. It's a kid that's down, and that's it. And I start walking out there just because that's just kind of what I do. If a kid's hurt, I want to go check it out, whether it's opposing team or us. And my trainers sprint by me, and that's when it got a little scary. And then the events that followed stayed scary. And when we felt like everything was okay and he was stable and all that stuff, that's when my attention turned to Coach Jones. Mm-hmm. And after kid was getting off the field and all that stuff, that's when I walked up to Coach and said, hey man, this needs to be up to you right here. What do you feel like's best? Whatever you want to do is fine. And we didn't talk about it very long and decided it's best for his kids if we just call it a night. So that's kind of how it went down.
No, it's definitely the right call because you guys are more than just head coaches. You guys are father figures. So what is it that you're implementing within your team to help these men become, or these high school seniors become grown men after they leave the program?
Well, in that moment right there, when I called my kids to me from the sideline, and I said, "Shake them up," shake the hands of the other team. They look at me like I'm crazy, And I said, hey, do what I said, shake them up. And they shake them up, and I'd get them on a knee. And the first thing I said is that there's more important things in life than football. Football is important to those kids across the way from us. Football is important to y'all, but there's things that are more important. And so it was just another opportunity to have one of those lessons, talking about, something seems like it's the world to you. But when you start talking about life and death and the future quality of life, it outweighs football a ton. And we talk about that in the program a lot, that one decision can change your life for the bad. I talk about that a lot, just one decision. You can live a perfect life, but if you make the choice to drink and drive, or you make the choice to, somebody says no and you say yes, it can change your life in a bad way. So we talk about things like that a lot in the program.
You're full of tough decisions that have nothing to do with football. I mean, it could be anything from if a kid's not getting it done in the classroom. It could be if this kid suffered multiple injuries and it's just not in his best interest to play football anymore. How tough is it to kind of go from the head coach where you're trying to win games to showing that compassionate side and trying to be more?
The two things that you just mentioned, the grades is a thing that all coaches are dealing with. Not just the head coaches, but assistants. You're talking kids into the idea that they're coming to school for academics, and really focusing on that with those kids. But talking about the other side of things, talking about what's important. We had a kid this year, varsity football player, returner, that he's on our team. He's on the roster. He's wearing his jersey every Friday night, but he's not wearing pads because it's not in his best interest health-wise to continue playing football. Those lessons are tough, and we try to, like this kid I'm talking about that he's not playing anymore, we try to take the hardship that he's feeling right now and make that a lesson for his life, and then with the rest of the team, use him as this example that, hey, stuff doesn't always work out in your life, but the way that you attack the classroom or in your future job doesn't need to change whenever things don't go the way that you had planned. So we do that a lot.
With a player like that, I know you just talked about, you just kind of elaborate a little bit on what that conversation was like. Now, was that also a parent's decision as well, too, or was everybody just kind of grouped in to let, hey, because what was that, conversation like?
To this particular kid, but a lot of our kids, a decision like that would undoubtedly be this collective decision, and it was emotional decisions with my athletic trainers and with our coaching staff and the kid and his parents. And a lot of those decisions, those life-changing decisions or life-impactful type decisions are collective decisions with parents and sometimes trainers, coaches, kids. So that was definitely a collective one.
Now, when you look at your team, get back to your good start, rolling into this week at 2-0, and you're playing a TAPS team, Concordia Lutheran, and you made the trip over there, correct, last year?
Yes, we did.
And what do you know about the Crusaders this year, and what are they looking like?
They're a really well-coached team, really well-coached. They play in a tough TAPS district. They have, their varsity roster is just as big as ours, the same number of kids and all that stuff. They're under some different rules, and they can practice in the summertime and in springtime and all that stuff. They can do a lot of things, and it's really evident on the field how well coached their kids are. Head coach has been there a while. He does a really good job with them. They did a great job last year. We were we had some injuries, a bunch of injuries last year, and struggling offensively to find our voice at that point in the year. And we had a pretty poor offensive year. But game against Concordia last year, and that's kind of stuck with me for a while. And making this switch was part of that. I never want to kind of be in that position again, where I don't quite know which direction to go with our personnel and stuff like that. So this year, I feel a lot more confident offensively going against them. But they will be a challenge. They'll be our toughest challenge to date. There's no question.
And one thing. You might not be able to hear it right now, but there's tons of rain. And how good does it feel to know that you got beautiful turf at Raider Stadium?
Oh, we practiced. we practiced in a downpour for 90 minutes this afternoon. It was great, man. The turf has been great. It's great for the football program, but it's been great for everybody. I love spring days to this day. We got it in 16, so 16, 17, 18, going into year 4 with it. I love spring days whenever the fields are wet, the softball field's wet, the baseball field's wet, and you have track, baseball, softball, and middle school track. You have 500 kids all over the turf and the track and in the bleachers and all that stuff. It has been such a great deal for our athletic department. Our band's on it at least once a week, if not twice a week. So it's not just great for us. Speaking as the athletic director,
right?
It really is. It's great for our whole place.
Now, I know you talked about finding your voice offensively. You definitely found it this year so far with the amount of points. Defensively, though, you've only let up 10 points. So what's the secret to the success? What's the difference from last year to this year, and who was that voice that you can specifically pinpoint as to who's the leader of that defense?
Well, we've been in the same system defensively now. This is the third year. I had a different defensive coordinator kind of structure my first 2 years, and now we've had the same DC for 3 years, Chase McDonald, and he does a really good job with what he does. Defensively, he's good at that piece, and he's what he does is what he understands, and I think that's really important to coaching. Is that if he switched fronts and switched base coverages, he might not look as good of a coach. He does, and our staff does, such a great job of coaching our particular scheme. And we have some kids that fly around. I can tell you this: we are faster on defense this year than we ever have been. And that's a big deal. You want to be big and strong and all that stuff, but if you can't run on defense, you can't play defense. And we are running on defense right now.
Awesome. Well, we've talked about a lot of X's and O's so far, but we like to have some fun as well. So coming up after the break, we're going to talk about anything from giving Arthur Lewis headaches when you were a player to the slot T Mafia. Maybe you know a little bit about that too.
I know a little bit.
So we're going to have that coming up next on 409 Sports X's and O's. And welcome back to 409 Sports X's and O's. And this is the time where we like to have a little more fun. And this has become now a 409 Sports 12 News Investigates. Okay, this is a subject.
And we're still waiting.
We're rolling on 3 weeks in a row, but we're talking to guys that would know about it. I mean, you've gotten a little wilder with your offense since you've got to Lumberton.
Yeah.
But you're well aware of the slot T Mafia.
I'm well aware of the slot T Mafia. It's a real thing.
It's a real thing.
It's a real thing unless you're asking someone in it. And then it might not be.
So how are we able to, because for the past, this will make 3 weeks now, we are literally trying to knock.
We're just
on the
trying to
door.
get in.
We just want to get in. Just
Yeah.
a +1 or +2. We got to do our own, it's.
You've been kicked out, I'm sure.
I cannot even, I can't even claim that I was ever entered into it.
Okay.
People think, when I was at Deweyville, people think that we ran the wing tee or the slot tee because our rushing yardage was gaudy. Mm-hmm. It was ridiculous. And so they talked to me about, man, when you ran the wing tee, slot tee, whichever one you ran at Deweyville, I didn't run either one of them.
Yeah.
I ran this really weird version of kind of pro wing tee-ish whatever. So that didn't get me in the Mafia.
Wow, you couldn't get in.
No, because I'm not by the book. I'm not by the Bible. That's what they call it.
And I don't want to bring it up, and it's such a sensitive subject, but you throw the ball now too. I mean, that's
yeah. Well, we've thrown the ball. If you count at the end of the half, we were driving down trying to score again, and we spiked it to kill the clock. If you count that, we've thrown the ball 3 times in 2 games.
I was going to say, because looking for highlights for this was so tough for me because it was just run. I mean, you can see it right there, just run. And I was like, man, do these guys ever throw? No, they don't.
Not this year. It probably changes year to year, though. It all depends on your personnel, right?
Well, I mean, I'm going to coach. I'm going to coach what I'm good at, man.
Yeah.
And me and my coaches coach the power really well.
Mm-hmm.
We coach a bunch of these run plays really well. We coach our pass plays really well too, and we work pass game a whole lot in practice. But in this offense and just in my mentality, if I can run the ball 74 times and not throw it, and have 600 yards of offense, we're going to have 600 yards of offense to run the ball. I mean, it doesn't bother me. A a wise coach once said, why stop running something if it's working?
Right.
And so that's the mentality that I took at Deweyville, and that's the mentality we're definitely taking this year.
And it's worked at both schools, I'd say.
Yeah, it worked well at Deweyville, and we're facing some tougher opponents in the future. So
right.
if we do need to loosen them up and throw the ball, we're going to loosen them up and throw the ball, But if we can run the power or the buck or the trap or the ISO, or if we can run,
you're going to run,
and you can't stop it, then we're going to run.
So
now,
what you're saying is the next slot T Mafia, meeting that we're invited to it, right?
No, I'm not even invited to it. I can't
he's not
even
in
go.
there.
But you should be. At this point in time, we should all just go knock up on the door.
There are. If you're part of the mafia, you run.
Slot T Mafia, that is, people. Let's just get
Not
that
the
fun.
Mafia.
Yeah, not the Mafia.
If you're
Slot
part of the
T.
Slot T Mafia, there are non-negotiables in your playbook. And there's plays that you don't have in your playbook because you're part of the group. Well, I've got plays that aren't in the book, and there's plays that I just don't run that are in the book. So they wouldn't even allow me in.
And you can only pass 6 times a game, we've heard.
6,
That's the
apparently.
high mark of
Yeah,
6.
Yeah, that's the high mark.
So
We
you're
actually-
following that code at least.
We actually talked about it in the office after watching Coach Matthews on here. If you throw it 3 times, so you're under the 6,
Right.
do the 3 that you didn't throw it carry over into the next game?
Ooh, I like
Wow.
that. I
Okay,
like that.
So
Never thought about
are you
that.
allowed 9 the next game? If it's 10 games, are you allowed 60 passes on the year? Could you throw it 60 times in one game?
I think Coach Babin's going to try to petition to get,
I
get in
like
there
that.
somehow.
Well, it was already
You
collectively
should.
established. I didn't have to call Jeff at Vada or anything
Right.
like that. No, sir. It is 6 times a game. No
matter
matter
what.
how many times you throw it before. If you throw it more than 6, you're probably kicked out.
Now, the one thing I remember going into last year, there was so much hope, so much expectations. This is the year Lumberton going to win that district title, could make a deep run. Injuries. Y'all just had so many injuries last year. How is your team looking this year, health-wise?
We're much healthier this
Good.
year.
That's good to hear.
They're drinking their milk. They
Man.
got their Hulk Hogan vitamins. They're good.
There's nothing you can do. If you're going to be a physical football team, you have to practice physical. And so we're still practicing physical. We're not afraid to hurt each other. We have to be physical. But the irony was all of our injuries, all of our key starters, I'm talking about starting quarterback, starting tailback, leading receiver, starting tight end, all these guys that were out either for the season or for a long length of time, they were all hurt in games. And they were big time injuries in games. So man, it's part of football. It is what it is. We got to that bye week after game 5, and we were hoping for it, and we got to regroup. We retooled what we were doing offensively, and got to go to the playoffs and win a playoff game and stuff. So, but yeah, I'm hoping our luck is a lot better injury wise this year.
Anytime Lumberton gets into the playoffs, it's a big deal.
Yeah.
Because there was a time when that was unthinkable. Then they ended that streak, earlier in the early 2000s, if you will. You played for Lumberton. Now you are back leading Lumberton. How special is it to lead the Raiders into the postseason? I mean, what's that mean to you?
Yeah, it was special in 07 when I was Alvin Crater's offensive coordinator. So that was just internally for me, it was really neat. It was great. And then in 08, of course, again, and then being fortunate enough to come back as the head coach and getting to go twice now, and hopefully for a third year in a row, or a third year, it's great. It's why I came back. I mean, Lumberton has a 55-year history and 4 playoff trips.
Right.
So it's a big deal. And man, I can't wait for our community. If we can be fortunate enough to make it again this year. Because right now, man, the excitement. We had a homecoming pep rally. The night before, there were thousands of people just at the pep rally. And then in the stands, we were packed to the gills. There's people on the fence. There's a lot of excitement right now. So I can't wait to see our playoff crowds if we're fortunate enough to make it.
I know, because we put you guys in our 409 Sports Top 10. We took a little bit of grief for that.
We did.
We did. I'm not quite sure as to why. Granted, even today there's a little bit, if Lumberton would have played Jasper, it didn't happen. So it doesn't at this point.
Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
What you've done, you've gone out there, you handled your 2 opponents. You're 2-0. And to me, you're one of the top 10 teams in our area.
That is true.
I don't know.
You can say, yeah, we are. That's right. You can say it. You can say it. We are.
I mean,
We think so.
If I'm a football coach standing in front of my kids right now, I'm saying, hey, fellas, I don't care if they have us number one. That it means
Thanks for telling us we're worthless. We appreciate that, Coach.
And that's a wrap.
All right.
I mean, it's fun to talk about, but you have to line up and block and tackle. So that's my message to my kids. That stuff. It doesn't mean anything to me. I'll read it. I will. I'll check it out. I saw that we were number 10. I did. I saw.
Yeah, we like that. We're happy that you're just reading it.
Yeah, I appreciate it. It doesn't mean don't put us in there. I'm not.
We can take you out next week if you want.
I'm appreciative.
You know, believe it or not, there is certain coaches, and it's not from football, but a volleyball coach here straight up texted me and said, do not put her team in the top 10. And I did.
Ever.
And then she said, yeah, we have injuries right now, and they've lost a couple of games. So now she's not very happy with me.
Gotcha. Well, and I'm not I guess I'm not that superstitious. Well, I'll tell you what, though. I have faith with this group of kids. That you could put us number one, and they would not stop working. They would not get complacent. They would not get satisfied. They wouldn't feel like they've arrived because we practice better right now than a lot of the groups I've had in the past, man. And that's my whole world. That's a coach's whole world, is how are we practicing? Are we getting better every day? Are we focused and making the right decisions in the classroom and out in the public? That's our whole world. And then Friday night, you hope that all those good decisions and good days of practice come together. And I really feel like the team I have right now, it wouldn't matter what they're ranked. You could rank us 100, and they're still going to go out there and practice hard and fight their tail off.
What's special about this group? Last year, you had plenty of experience as far as you had seniors and leadership back. What's special about this group so far that you've seen from being around them?
I think I told them last week, and I don't want to discredit the other groups that I've coached. I've coached a bunch of good groups and great kids. The group last year, amidst all the injuries and all that stuff, to persevere like they did. We lost a couple of really close games late in the season and still managed to make it the second round for the second time in school history. So I credit those guys last year, and I don't want to discredit them because they overcame a lot. But I told this group that the bulk of them, they really, really like to play football. And that sounds weird to someone that doesn't coach football, right? Well, of course
they like football.
Of course they like football because they're playing football.
But there's more than football than just Friday nights at the games. There's a lot more to it.
Yeah, well, if you really like to play football, that means you don't just like to hit people whenever it's fun and you hit them hard and you knock them down. You just like hitting people. You like blocking people. You like being coached every day. You like reading a key and fitting the gap. You like all these things about the game. You don't just like the crowd and the excitement and the adrenaline and all that stuff. You like the actual gameplay of it. There's a lot of football players out there that don't like that. They don't want to read a key. They don't want to step with this foot 100 times over and over again. I feel like the bulk of my team this year, they just like football. My offensive linemen, they like doing footwork drills. They like it. Now, they might not like it right at the time, but that's what I think the difference could be with this squad this year is they just like playing. Doesn't matter if it's Monday morning or Friday night.
Now, Coach, I know you've been in the game a number of years, and for somebody like me who still doesn't know that much about you, who would you say have been your biggest coaching influences up to this point?
There's no question that when I became a coach, the first guy that I worked under was Alvin Crater. He's a coach at Vita right now. He became the head coach at Lumberton. And so he was actually the head freshman coach when I was a young 23-year-old freshman assistant. And then he became the head JV coach, moved up. And I don't think I even coached under him that year, but I kind of followed him around still. And then the next year he promoted me to the varsity staff when he became the head coach. Then he promoted me to his OC. I can, not just with teaching me football, that man taught me a lot of football. And I was really fortunate. I was 25 or 26 or whatever. I was single. It was his first head coaching job, and he never wanted to go home. So he's watching film until 9:30 at night after football practice. And it's just me and him in the office. And he is teaching me so much about football. And that's one way that I owe that man. But the way I really owe him, though, is that, man, he taught me how to work. That guy is the most high-character, driven man that I've ever been around. I've been around a bunch of great men. There's a bunch of great head coaches and assistant coaches in the area, but he's the best I've ever been around. And he taught me a lot about how to be a professional, how to treat kids, and how to work every day. I consider myself a pretty high-energy guy, and he's a lot older than me. And early on when I was coaching on the varsity staff with him, he would run by me to practice. And he's a lot older than me, and he's running to football practice. So he just taught me how to lead kids. And we have some personality differences as far as the way that I lead compared to the way that he leads. I'm still going to be myself, but there's a lot of Alvin Crater that comes out in me almost on a daily basis.
Coach Crater he was my wide receivers coach at P&G.
When I played baseball at P&G, our head coach was Jay Stone, and our assistants were Mike Long and Alvin Crater.
Yeah.
So we're very familiar.
Yes,
we
very
played for
familiar.
the guy,
Yeah.
and you're absolutely right about it. I mean, just one of the nicest guys just to sit and talk with. He would just sit there and talk with us, and he always made me feel special as a player, and took time to just spend time with us.
No, definitely. I mean, especially during my years, I had a bad taste in my mouth anyway. So at that point in time, I was like, you know what, like I'm pretty much done. Like my senior year, I mean, I got hurt, but I was just like, I'm throwing in the towel. I'm just gonna have some fun here. So, I think he kind of gave me some grief at every now and then, but that's my own doing. But I mean, I saw him though with the players that we did have, like a Joey Price at that time, or a Kirk Hallmark who was receiving, who went to Corpus. I mean, I did see how he treated them, and you can tell who that his character. Everything you just said is spot on.
Yeah, he's just a good man. Raised some great kids. I say he raised some great kids. It's really cool. I love talking about it because when I was his OC and he was the head coach, he was down on the field and I'm in his headphones and I'm up in the box. And we worked that way for years, won a lot of games and all that stuff. Now I am the head coach down on the field, and on the headphones is Aaron Crater, his son. He's my OC up in the box, and he's the voice in my head, So I love how it's kind of come full circle.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
That's really cool.
And we're almost out of time, but before you go, I did want to ask you, being a Lumberton High School graduate, being the athletic director and head coach, what's your dream? What's your dream for the Raider program?
Well, I mean, it's been my dream since I realized in coaching that the object of coaching was to win the state championship, right? Mm-hmm. So if you're talking about dreams, then to bring Lumberton to the state title game amidst all odds, amidst 55 years of history minus 4 years where you went a round or two, that's my dream, is to win the state title and be in Cowboy Stadium. But man, it takes a lot. And I go to the state title games every year. As a matter of fact, I go with Aaron Crater and/or Alvin Crater if I can get him out of the deer stand. I go to the state title games every year, and man, there's no question that to make it to that place, everything has to be in place. Everything has to be in place. The administration has to be 1,000% on board with what you're doing. The community has to be 1,000% on board with what you're doing. You have to have numbers in the program. You have to have some legit athletes in the program. I mean, all of it has to line up. And we've seen some local teams make it. Mm-hmm. And a lot of those, it's some people want to credit just athletes. No, they're wrong. It's not just athletes. Right. Some people want to credit just coaching. No, that's wrong too. Okay. It ain't just coaching, because there's a lot of good coaches out there. It all has to line up, and that's why I fight so hard in Lumberton. If we have parent concerns and issues, man, I'm going to handle them personally. I'm going to make phone calls to try to gain ownership from my young kids and my young parents, to where we have this strong base coming up through the athletic department. So
almost like a family. You're building a family.
Trying to pull these kids in, not putting my head in the sand and saying, well, they don't know what they're talking about, or what. Man, I want to get everybody on board, because I know the only way that we achieve something that's never been achieved is if everybody is on board. It's not just about athletes. It's not just about a coach or a group of coaches. It's about a whole lot more than that. And only 10 teams a year or something like that prove it, that win the state title. So it's tough, man. It's tough, but it takes a village, I guess.
Certainly does, and we'll be pulling for you, Coach.
Thank you, man.
Thanks for joining us here.
Thank you, Coach.
Another episode of 409 Sports X's and O's in the books. We'll see you next week.